Is my screen being shared?
Yes. Okay, and it looks
Great.
like the recording is going from my end, just confirming everyone else can see.
Affirmative. Thank you.
Amazing.
So
So I
exciting.
will call this meeting to order at 10:36 a.m. We'll begin with the territorial acknowledgement. So pursuant to Federation Policy 50, Indigenous Engagement and Inclusivity, the Federation of Students acknowledges the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the Neutral, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. The University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. As I've said at previous meetings, if you are not in the Waterloo region, you can learn what land you are on. I believe it is, I'm trying to find I'll get the link and I'll put it in the chat so you can take note of the land that you are currently on if you're in Canada. All right, next we'll move on to the acceptance of resignations. So whereas Mahavir Jai Ukrani has submitted a written resignation to the Speaker, then be it resolved, Council accepts the resignation of Mahavir as Mathematics Counselor effective immediately. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Thanks, Cannon. Cannon seconds. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to this, but Mahavir did say that they didn't feel they were able to commit and adequately represent their students. So we will be accepting their resignation. I don't know, Cannon, if you would also like to speak to this.
No, usually it's a good policy if someone's resigning to accept the resignation.
Good point, Cannon. Okay. I guess we'll take this on consensus. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we have accepted the resignation of Mahavir, and we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. So be it resolved, Council approves the agenda as presented. Are there any amendments that need to be made to the agenda? Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment to add an item under general orders for discussion, USA policy paper, racial and religious equity consultation discussion.
Megan, where is it do you want that?
Under general orders.
Okay.
Shannon, are you seconding that, or would you like to speak?
I will do that, and I'd also like to speak.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
With the resignation of Mahavir, we have 2 empty seats. I was wondering if we could amend the honorary lifetime membership to include Campus Life Advisory Committee and Planning Student Space Works Committee, whatever it's called, to be filled too there.
Sure. So Planning Student Spaces and Works has an empty counselor seat.
And so does CLAC.
And so does CLAC. Sure. We can add those to the agenda as well, and I will second that. Just confirming, only empty counselor seats.
Yes.
Abby, was adding 7.2 taken on consensus?
I haven't voted yet, so that's a good point.
Okay.
Cannon messed up my brain. Sorry, Cannon. Okay. So we're voting on.
If Megan
Sorry.
could either send the text or say it again, I will type it in as she's speaking.
We'd like to have a discussion on the upcoming USA paper. So I don't know if you want to just put, what is it? What's the name of the paper again, Megan? Megan? Hello?
Megan, you're muted.
Oh, she put it in the chat. So the USA policy paper, racial and religious equity consultation discussion. So Megan has put that forward. Cannon seconds that. Any opposition to adding this to general orders? Any abstentions? Okay, so we've added item 7.2, USA policy paper, racial and religious equity consultation discussion to the agenda. And now we'll move on to Cannon's edition, which is adding elections for the Planning Student Spaces and Works Committee and the Campus Life Advisory Committee to fill the empty counselor seats. I've seconded that, John.
So that would be item 7.3.
Yes, I believe we'll need 2 extra. So 1 for Planning Student Spaces and Works, unless you want to just call it committee elections and we'll do them all together.
In that case, no, let's do different
So
motions.
Planning Student Spaces and Works Committee vacancy, and then Campus Life Advisory Committee vacancy. Okay. I will take that on consensus. So any opposition to adding those 2 general orders? Any abstention? All right, so we've added 1 counselor seat each, John. We've added those 2 items to general orders. Are there any other amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll assume the agenda as amended, and we'll move on to approval of the minutes. So be it resolved that council approves the minutes of the November 8th, 2020 meeting as presented. Are there any amendments that need to be made to the minutes? Okay, last call for anything on the minutes before we approve them. Okay. So can I get a mover and a seconder for approval of the minutes? Do I need that? Yes, I do.
I'll move.
Thanks, John. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Cannon. Oh, who said I'll second?
Catherine.
Catherine.
Okay, then we'll take Catherine because Cannon seconded the last one. All right, all those opposed to the approval of the minutes? Any abstention? Okay, we have approved the minutes from the last meeting. That's very exciting. We'll move on. There's nothing in the consent agenda. Sadly, I know John and I are sad. We love our consent agendas. So we'll move on to the reports, starting with the executive reports. So I'll begin. I don't have anything to add in addition to the reports that I have submitted. I urge those to take a look specifically at the recommendations arising from the August special meeting investigation findings, because that's what we'll be accepting today to task the officers of council to move forward to make those changes. I guess at this time, I'll ask if there are any questions before we move to accept the report. John, do you see any questions?
Nope.
Great. So I'll read the motion to accept the report. Be it resolved that council accepts the final report entitled August Special Meeting Investigation Findings and the recommendations outlined in the report. And be it further resolved, council tasks the officers of council to review and execute the recommendations in preparation for the 2021-2022 governing year. Can I get a second? John, Cannon or John seconds. Whoever's recording minutes. Cannon seconds. We'll take that. I don't have anything further to say on this motion. Cannon, would you like to speak?
Nope.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions or comments before we vote?
Sorry, just a really quick question.
Oh, sorry, who is that?
It's Megan.
Oh, hi, Megan. Can you put a 1 in the chat next time, but I'll take your question here.
Yes. Where can we find that report? I'm not able to find it.
It's attached to the council agenda.
Okay. I'm not sure that I received that, but that's all right. Okay.
It was sent to the council mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list, we'll make sure that you're on there.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you subscribed previously to the mailing list?
I believe so. I mean, I received the agenda.
Okay, it's attached to the agenda. The agenda has a few attachments. So if you were to scroll down to the report of the president, you could find it there. If you also have access to the Google Drive included in the email with the agenda attachment, you can find the attachments broken apart in that drive as well.
Okay.
Okay, and John has linked it in the chat as well for ease.
I was looking for the motion in your report, Abby, but I'm not finding it in the report.
The motion is included on the
Doesn't
agenda.
matter.
Hello, I'm just gonna chime in. This is Evelyn. I was having trouble joining the meeting, but I was wondering if you wanted me to take over for a live agenda.
I'm good.
Sure, I'm sure John would appreciate that.
Oh, all right.
Unless John wants to keep
Are you
doing
ready? Are you ready, Evelyn?
Oh, I'm already on the dock, no worries.
Okay, great.
All right, so I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, I'll share my screen then.
And John, you
window.
wanted to speak to
Yeah.
this? Okay.
While we're waiting on the transfer, Abby, just thank you for putting together this report. I know you put a lot of effort into it, and it was very well done and very well thought through.
Thank you, John.
Alright, can you see my screen all right?
It's still black for me.
Well, it's purple when you talk, but oh, I can see your screen now. I see myself.
I can see the meeting. I just can't see the Google Drive.
Okay, let me try again then. Oh, here we go. Okay, that should be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent. I can see that.
All right.
We are on item 4.1, I guess, 0.1.
Okay.
Perfect. Any further comments before we vote on this motion? Okay, seeing none in the chat. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Thank you all for taking the time to look at the report. We'll move on to, I guess first I'll ask if there are any further questions for the report of the president. Cannon, go ahead.
I had a few questions about the annual plan updates. First was, you said the funding equity initiative is complete. Could you elaborate what was the end result of that?
So it's complete on my end. It is not complete. We've allocated, so my understanding is we've allocated the money for the clubs, which was, I guess, in my role in that was getting that funding approved. Alana would have more information that she could present about what came out of that afterwards and how we are allocating that money. But from my involvement, my role is complete.
Thank you. And I just had like one more question, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So it was about where is this race-based data? So we're urging units to collect race-based data to guide their equity advocacy. Does that also include, let's say, the various departments, faculty in the university, that they can ask people for that data to do research or something? Or is it just like university centrally does that? So for example, like if I'm trying to run a mentorship program and I want to kind of figure out if people want to be with the same gender or the same race, are we allowed to collect that data?
So that's what the equity data, I believe it's a working group, is working on at the moment. They're trying to figure out that process and kind of learn best practices to how to collect and store and appropriately use that data. So I don't have the answer for that right now, but that is something that we're receiving updates on and are hoping to learn how WUSA can use that to better support students. So I'll have better answers for that once that working group wraps up.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that, Cannon.
No worries.
Okay. Last call for questions.
Hi, I'm sorry, Abby. I'm trying to put a 1 in the chat, but it's not sending.
Oh, great. Go ahead, Megan.
I have a question regarding the outcome of the investigation into the August special meeting. So I have heard through the grapevine that a warning was issued to raise the August special meeting by members of council. And I'm noticing now that I've been able to access your report that isn't in the report. And I also don't believe that I, as a counselor, received any information about that decision being made or was given an opportunity to be involved in that decision. And that's really concerning to me. And I was just wondering if there's any information about that.
Okay, one moment. Cannon has a point of personal privilege.
Sorry, I don't know if it was just me, but Megan was kind of cutting a lot, so I couldn't really fully understand what she was trying to say. So maybe if you could summarize what she was asking.
Sure. So Megan was also cutting out for me a little bit, which is why I was like putting my ear like this. But my understanding is Megan is concerned that council or there has been talk between membership of Ray's receiving a warning from council, and Megan is concerned that she wasn't given an opportunity to comment or provide any feedback on that. Megan, is that correct?
Yes.
Great. I may defer this question to the chair of the board, if Ben could speak to this.
Hey, Abby. Yeah, I was just going to put a 1 in the chat, but I'm on my phone, so it's a bit difficult. Yeah, Megan, that is true. The board did issue a warning to raise for what were viewed as inappropriate tweets that called out a particular volunteer within the organization. I'll talk about this more when I get to my report, but the board is actually meeting on Tuesday to follow up on this item. But it was a decision made by board, which is maybe why you feel you didn't have an opportunity to engage with it. It wasn't made at council. But I'm happy to take questions about that, I guess, in the chair report.
So it was a decision made by board of directors, not by students council.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Megan, I'll just add, the reason it wasn't included in the report is because the report is specific to what happened during the meeting on the Teams call and how we can further improve council meetings. So that's why it was not included in the report.
Okay.
Okay. It appears that we don't have anyone else on the speaking list. I'll give a couple more seconds. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the report of the Vice President, Operations and Finance, Alana, who I believe is sick this morning. So we were going to be receiving a presentation on the Student Lounge business plan, and I believe Kumar is here to present that plan. So Kumar, if you'd like, you can share your screen. Evelyn, if that's fine. Sorry, is Kumar still on the line?
Yeah, hello.
Oh, hi, Kumar.
Hello, everyone. Just take 1 second, share my screen. All right, can everyone see that okay? Thumbs up if you can, Abby. I can see you there in the corner. Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me to present our plan today to you folks about the bomb shelter pub space and where it is going. Unfortunately, I am only working on one screen right now, so if you don't mind, we will save the questions till the end of the presentation, but I'll be more than happy to take any questions about what's presented today, any clarifications that you may have. This plan or this presentation today will pretty much summarizes the key facts that were sent to you folks within our business plan and the fact sheet, I believe, that you were sent earlier this week. So just as a refresher, and before I get into this, where we went with the building and the project and where it's at, a brief timeline and a history as to what the space was and how we got to where we are today, especially for those folks that are new to council and this body. So in USA discontinued the operations of the bomb shelter pub. That was our campus pub. After years of restructuring, failed financials, and after engaging with a third-party consultant in 2018, unfortunately, we were losing a lot of money. The operation wasn't sustainable for the organization. It was highly used. However, the costs just didn't warrant the amount of utilization that we were getting for the space. Throughout 2019, after closing down the space, we were reassessing, our past operations, staffing levels. We began researching new space options as well. But most importantly, we engaged with our membership. As soon as the bomb shelter space closed, we had many of our students upset because it's the campus bar. It was a hangout space. It's been a couple of years for those that don't remember Bomber Wednesdays or trivia nights or open mic nights or the drag show or sex toy bingo in the Bomber. Those are some pretty flagship and cool shows that we used to put on. So it's very near and dear to many of our students. So we had over 3,000 members participate right after the bomb shelter closed down. And we took that data to figure out what was important to them about the space, what didn't they like, why they came, why they didn't come. The bomb shelter was so many different things, from offering $3.99 breakfast in the morning to bar nights in the evening to co-op info sessions as well. So many things going on. So we really tried to dig in that data to figure out what our members liked and what the market feel was. And we put together a concept that we brought forward to council and board, which was a student lounge concept. And that lounge concept, which I'll get into, is what we're presenting today. The lounge concept does maintain many aspects of the social parts of the bar, of the bomb shelter pub, but also opens it up to so many more avenues and pretty much many more members because it's no longer just a pub, it's a lounge space for everyone. And again, I'll get into that. So in 2020, earlier this year, we engaged after the approval from Students' Council and Board with our architect to begin the design. Unfortunately, with COVID, that we experienced in March. We had to put the brakes on the project just because we didn't know what the campus enrollments and our funding situations were going to look like. So we did have a little bit of delays caused there, but we picked it right back up in the fall, and we continued the design process. And that's what we're here to share today is what we've come up functionally with the space and the design. And currently our design and the concept is out to be estimated, so we can get a Class D estimate for the space. So what's been developed? So we engaged with Tillman Ruth Robinson. That's the architectural firm. They've worked with many campuses in the past, including Western University and many more within Ontario, and have built social spaces. We chose that architect through a process with University of Waterloo procurement. And we asked them, we needed to build a space for all undergraduate members with the following goals. So the themes here we put together, which I'll get into in depth, came from a lot of the survey data and the student data that we solicited. So our first theme is providing a space where our members can relax and refresh themselves, providing a space where our members can reconnect, and providing a space where our members can refuel. But most importantly, hearing from our members as well as our council policies and our organizational goals, both short-term and long-term, accessibility and sustainability are going to be major factors and considerations while taking into the redevelopment of this space. As I said, these 3 or 4 R's, the relax, refresh, reconnect, and refuel, were developed after, and those themes came up after surveying 3,000 students following the closure of the bomb shelter pub, as well as, I believe, around 1,400 students following the decision that we were moving forward with a lounge concept. So for those folks that may have seen the plan and read the plan, you may have seen the beautiful picture or in the minutes of this much more elaborate and expanded space than the bomb shelter pub was. And I'll tell you how we got there. The lounge and what we've got proposed is going to take our membership and the seating from what was previously about 150 students to 450 students at any given time. And we needed to do an expansion to facilitate this, a square footage expansion. The bomb shelter pub on an average week serviced about 1,000 members a week. That was through breakfast, lunch, dinner, as well as our bar nights. Some weeks it would service 1,000 to 2,000 members, but most weeks it was about 1,000 members. What we're hoping to accomplish with this lounge space is we're hoping to take that with it being able to seat 450 members at any given time. We're hoping to seat up to 1,000 to 2,000 members daily. So, no more finding a stairwell to have your lunch or finding a seat. We're definitely going to be there in a premier space for all our members. So what does that mean? That's taking the bomb shelter pub 6,500 square foot of restaurant space, and we're converting into a multi-floor 15,000 square foot facility. So let's get into the themes here. So relax and refresh. So some things that we're going to be doing, we're going to be providing modern lounge furniture and fixtures throughout that promote wellness, blood circulation, and relaxation. We're going to be providing frictionless service. So if our members that come into the lounge, require to book a room in the Student Life Center or have a question about an event that's going in the Student Life Center, that extension of our turnkey desk services could be potentially passed on and offered in this lounge space. And for those that don't know how we came up with the lounge space, we pretty much looked at a lot of the data, and we modeled it very similar to an airline lounge. I don't know how many of you folks have been in an airline lounge, like an Air Canada lounge or similar, but an airline lounge pretty much helps air travelers get from one flight to another. And sometimes those boarding times or those times between flights are quite small, but also helps that passenger refresh, grab a bite to eat, get in and out maybe send an email, connect to Wi-Fi, and get to their next flight. So very similar with our members and our students. They're busy. They're busy with assignments, co-op interviews, work term reports, catching up with friends, finding sublets. It's very much different to be a Waterloo student than any other student. We've got a lot more going on in our members. So we're trying to provide that same type of experience, in and out. We've taken a lot of the friction out of our traditional restaurant and pub model, and it's really a space for everyone. Getting back into this, the decor, music, plants as well in the space, staff trained to promote wellness and provide that elevated layer of customer service, bringing in a lot of natural lighting as well, reducing the eye strain that LED lights provide, and providing modern bathroom and spa type fixtures in the bathroom spaces, no more, or we're going to be trying to stay away from the traditional institutional bathrooms, if you want to call them, and a little bit nicer. We're also looking at potentially bringing in also a certain amount, probably one to two at maximum, amount of international toilets. So for those folks that don't know, we have many international students in our community at Waterloo, and the toilets are very different from many countries that our members come from. That could be a very different experience for them that may have not experienced the Western toilets. So to provide that as well, in addition to toilet paper alternatives and fixtures such as bidets are also going to be looked at for these spaces. Reconnect. So really taking that space and really making it for everyone, whether you're by yourself or you're with a group of people from 2 to 6 people. We're going to be providing those spaces for you to reconnect with your friends, your classmates, your professors, whatever it might be, or even yourself. We're looking at providing spaces that will have increased wireless access points, making sure that there's potentially even print copy Wi-Fi stations. The upper floor will be a bookable space, and the upper floor, when we get into it, will be able to host the nights that were important to our members, the bar nights, information sessions, and stage shows. We're probably not going to have Bomber Wednesday every Wednesday anymore, but having those Halloween parties, the sex toy bingo, those types of shows, will definitely be doable with the space that we're proposing as well. The space will also be able to host council meetings, transitions, retreats. We've got breakout rooms and catering facilities as well that will be able to provide that for our council, as well as our other groups that require conference facilities and whatnot for retreats and trainings and such. And then Refuel. Food and beverage is a very important part of the space. I mean, it was a par. But one thing that we're going to start off with is our members can bring outside food. You'll never hear me say this in the past, but you know what? If they're coming in with food services food, that's what our members choose that they want to eat. Let them eat that. But we're here to provide them a space that they can socialize, they can reconnect, they can refuel in their terms. We're also going to be providing a space for our members to heat up their own food and rinse their stations. We're going to be increasing the amount of microwaves because we've heard that from our members that's important to them, as well as allowing them to wash their own containers in a sectioned off space. We are still going to have our food and beverage program. We're very proud of our food and beverage program. Just because we're allowing food services food doesn't mean their food's better than ours. Our food and beverage program is going to be redefined, and if a member chooses to come visit our space, our members will be able to get their food ordered straight to the seat that they're on. So there's no waiting to be seated. There's no waiting to get your payment made. You order off your phone or you order off a self-order kiosk. You specify your seat, and the food will come to you. So we're really making it quicker because our members don't. We heard our members did not like waiting to be seated. They didn't like waiting to get their drink, and it was traditional, very outdated restaurant flow. So we've re-engineered that for sure, and we're still working in the background in figuring out how that's going to happen. But we're quite confident with the infrastructure we have, we will make it happen. We're going to be providing our members with also a grab and go program. So if they don't even want to wait anything to be made, they can go up to the bar and grab a premium sandwich or a salad that's ready behind the display. As well, providing our members as well as lounge feature exclusives such as still and sparkling bottle refill stations as well, and a barista program as well as in the works. So accessibility, we are starting. We started with the architects, and we told them that this was a top priority, and one of the biggest barriers of the bomb shelter from an accessibility perspective was anyone that required a wheelchair access entrance or just needed accessibility assistance in getting in to the main entrance of the bomb shelter pub would have to come through the back door or side door and through a very unpleasant path. So what we've started with and made very integral was introducing an elevator at our main entrance of the bomb shelter pub that will take our members that require assistance to enter the space with everyone else. We're also ensuring accessible washroom spaces, and first ever, all our washrooms will be gender neutral across the board in this space. From a positioning of a space perspective, we are eliminating the pub focus of the space. Whether it's not for your religious purposes of certain members or just for health and wellness, the pub focus and the bomb shelter pub really reduced the total addressable market that we had towards our membership, how much of our membership we would service as operating as a pub. Now that with the lounge as our primary focus, we're hoping that we'll see more participation of our members in the space. We're going to be enabling omni-channel ordering platforms. So whether they want to order on their own device, at the bar, on self-ordering kiosks, or even call it in, we're going to make sure that that's taken care of, that there's no barriers to that. And finally, one that's important really to me is ensuring seating is friendly for all body types, both small, large, and everyone in between, and comfortable and ergonomic as well. Sustainability. So again, another focus that we're supporting the plan with a lot of elements of sustainability. We've engaged with, we're going to be ensuring sustainable materials are used for the construction project, ensuring things like window to wall ratios are under 40%, and such. Gas, electric, water fixtures are energy efficient or better. We've engaged with UW's hired sustainability consultant, which is our internal consultant, to help ensure we are incorporating sustainable methodologies towards the construction project. And we're also going to be ensuring that any waste or disposal services, including composting, as well as the recycling of any heating, ventilation, and cooling systems as well. So let's get into a little bit of the fun stuff, the floor plans and the options. So how did we get to the 450 seated thing? Just for visuals, this is the bomb shelter pub as is existing. You can see when we tried to turn it into a lounge, we were able to seat 153 seats for our members. You may ask, well, the bomb shelter pub before sat 160. How is the seating less? Well, we also eliminated the, for those that knew the space before, there used to be a stage here, there used to be a bar here, there used to be another bar here. All those things have been removed because lounge seating is less like cafeteria seating or food court seating where everyone is more kind of condensed. And there's a little bit more breathing room. It's about 20, 25 square feet per person is what's allocated, where it's about, I believe, 10 to 15 in other environments. So when we tried to fit 400 people in this space, it wasn't possible. We would have limited food and beverage presence, and if we wanted to fit more, we could, but it would be very condensed, and it would probably be capped at probably 200 or 225. So we worked with the architects to expand into the bomb shelter patio space, so we would get the building expansion, bringing our total seat count to 239 seats, with 53 seats. Also, we are keeping the patio element of 53 seats on the patio. It'll be a winterized heated patio, so we would be able to use it probably 4 to 6 months a year. We've ensured that there's the bar and cafe outlet, and it's predominantly, it is a big focal point of the space because it is still important, but as you can see, the bar over here and the restaurant over here. The restaurant space will be, I forget the exact terminology, but it will effectively be like an open concept, so our members will be able to see their pastas, their salads, whatever it is they've ordered being made. They'll see that activity station and work, because we've brought it out. And that's important because we want to ensure that and give our members the confidence that we are using fresh ingredients. We're getting away from the deep fried foods from the pub and more into some wholesome and premium meals, still at student-friendly pricing. We can see we've got the bathrooms all over here. They are all privately enclosed rooms with a toilet fixture and then communal sinks across both areas. Our elevator is right over here at the main entrance, so our members can kind of, from the Student Life Center, go into the elevator down half a floor or up one floor to the second floor. And we've got some various types of seating throughout the space. This is our second floor, and this is a theater view of the second floor. So this would be the patio expansion that we would be seeing. And just for illustration purposes, they provided a theater layout as well as a lounge layout. The second floor would serve as overflow to the lounge. So it would give 130 seats. If our first floor is booked and all the seats are taken up, our members can make their way up to the second floor. And if the second floor during evenings and weekends could also be booked out as a multi-functional space. So here's the sample mock-up. This is very, very, very high level and early stages. So please, this is not what you're going to get. This is some very early stages of the bar and restaurant. You can see here we've got, we've got the display for various sandwiches and such. We've got the beer taps. We've got the restaurant activity station. And yeah, the second floor will seat 130 or have a 300-person standing room capacity. We've got some breakout rooms off to the side here. If there's a special event, all this furniture would be put into these breakout rooms or this storage room to make room for whatever's required. There is a bar as well that could open up over here on the second floor, as well as bathrooms as well. So the food and beverage would be supported by our kitchen. That is in the upper floor. There's a ring road entrance we can see off the Tim Hortons. An up top view. We've got some cross-section type diagrams or overview, bird's eye view cross-section, I guess. here's a interior of level 1. So you can see they've come a long way from that first sketch. We can see very high level conceptual drawing of rendering of what we would be getting in the bar space on the floor 1. That is floor 2. That multifunctional thing. The seating, please, is there some stock images they're using. The seating is going to be more premium seating, but you can see it's we've got some beautiful windows there and overlooking the space. So the next steps. So we are awaiting our further 3D renderings and our cost estimates from our architects. Today we've provided the update. We are still working on the funding strategy and are working with the Budget and Appropriations Committee as well as our Planning, Space and Works Committee to develop that. We are hoping before we head out to our holidays to publish this work for our general membership and take it to the UW Building and Properties Committee on January the 10th. If all this goes well and gets passed, we can break grounds probably towards the fall 2021 based on the current timelines. And I know I'm out of time, I apologize. We will move on to questions. Or no questions, or whatever needs to happen. I apologize, sorry guys.
No, it's okay, Kumar. Thank you for that excellent presentation. If you have a question for Kumar, we have about 3 minutes for questions. So if you want to put one in the chat, you can ask some questions there. If there are no questions, or maybe you want to reserve your questions for after council, you can email vpof@wusa.ca. That's the best way to get a hold of Elena. It looks like Stephanie has a question. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, I noticed in the business plan it mentioned that there was an expectation that there was going to be a 500% increase of usage. I was just wondering how that number was arrived at.
Yeah, so we're taking the seating from what we knew with 150-person seating and what the bomb shelter operated as is just a pub. We were able to service 1,000 students a week. We're taking it to 450 seats. If we would be turning that anywhere between 2 to 3 times a day, that entire space, that's where we're getting that number from. So that is an estimate. That doesn't mean that many people are going to be ordering from our food and beverage restaurant. What that does mean is that many members are going to be attending or visiting our space.
John, it appears there is a motion attached to this report. I'm just trying to pull it up. Okay, so there's a motion in Lana's report. If you want to pull it up for the assembly.
I think I have.
Oh,
Is
perfect.
my screen sharing?
Yes, it is. Great. It's in front of me. Perfect. So be it resolved that Students' Council approves the Bomber Lounge plan as presented, and be it further resolved, Students' Council directs the Bomber Lounge Working Group to create a funding strategy based on the plan as presented, and be it further resolved that the VP Operations and Finance will bring the final plan for approval to Students' Council by the end of winter 2021. Cannon is the mover. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, John. Any comments before we vote on this motion? Thank you for putting that in the live minutes. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. So all those opposed. Any abstentions? Okay. Oh, Stephanie, would you like that noted? Okay. So the motion passes with Stephanie noted in abstention. Okay. Thank you, Kumar. Oh, Cannon would like to speak.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, Cannon, go ahead.
I was just wondering, I was going to ask Alana this, but I guess she's not here, so I'll ask you. Has there been any update on the FedSol referenda? Because I believe based on the motion that was passed in the last December council meeting, there's a deadline that if the executives could not pick something out of the university, there had to be a referenda happening this year.
I can bring this back to Alana to get you more of an update. Was there no update in the written report?
Nope, not that I could see.
My understanding right now from my involvement is that we've had conversations and are having conversations with the associate provost students. So Chris Reed. We are currently working on a few agreements with the university. So while there hasn't been specific movement on Fed Hall due to COVID-19, we are still having conversations about Fed Hall. At the moment, does council want to motion to extend the deadline, or is council still looking to move forward with referendum? I guess, Cannon, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yep.
Okay. It looks like Alana is here. Alana, did you want to ask the assembly for extension? I'm not sure what your next step is.
I guess whatever council wants. We are having those conversations. I think we need to bear in mind that it is COVID and the university is dealing with a lot of things right now, so it's really hard for them to prioritize other things. But if council is willing to give a deadline, then great. If they are not, then I guess we gotta do what we gotta do.
Thank you, Alana. I wanted to give us all a couple minutes of break before the presentation from athletics at 11:30. Cannon, I don't know, do you want to pick up this conversation after athletics presentation?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll put a pause on this presentation. We'll give everybody 3 minutes. So if you can come back here at 11:31 for the presentation to start, just want to make sure everyone has a bathroom break in between presentations. So we'll take leave.
Can we invite Lee Alcus to our discussion?
We haven't sent him any invitation, so he wouldn't know that this discussion is happening. I don't think we can just invite someone into a meeting without them knowing any of the context.
Well, you should tell that to him. I've heard stories.
Okay. I'm unsure what you mean.
I've heard stories of people arriving in meetings after being told they don't get to see the agenda for that meeting.
Interesting.
I know.
John, if you want to touch base with me after, we can have a conversation about that.
Okay. What's a poo, Edward?
Sorry, that was meant to be a POI. I was asking if we were on break, like, are we on recess or are we just standing down?
We're on break.
Just a break until 11:31.
Abby, I was wondering, is there like any slide deck for this presentation?
I guess we're about to find out. Dan, are you ready? Or not Dan, who is here? Ari
Adam.
is here?
Adam. Yeah, we're gonna share, we will share a couple slides.
Awesome, you can put them up now,
okay.
Rolly. It looks like people are gonna start making their way back. So you can get started.
Very good.
Awesome,
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. So while Adam shares his screen, I'll just maybe say a few words. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. We always appreciate the opportunity to engage with our students, but thank you to all of you for your leadership and advocacy on behalf of your constituency. Feel it's utmost important to have student leadership that are going to advocate for the student experience of Waterloo. And I think over the past 6 years that I've been at Waterloo, we've been grateful for the relationship with WUSA to advance that over the years. So my name is Rolly Webster. I'm the Director of Athletics and Recreation at the University of Waterloo. Adam Steeves, who's on the call, is our Senior Manager of Recreation. And later on in the call, I'll introduce Donna Reams, who's our Senior Manager of Wellness and Active Living. Maybe I'll first just speak to the priorities we've worked on over the few years that we've been together in this leadership structure. It's been a great opportunity to prioritize strategy, but at the same time to put in the structure, the proper structure to provide leadership in the key priority areas. So Adam and Donna are both new to their roles since I've arrived, but also that it's put huge priority on recreation, physical activity, the well-being of our students. I always say the proactive approach to well-being. And then the other priority we really tried to focus on is space. We need to have additional space to provide the programming that we do. And luckily, we've had success in working together with you and others on campus to advance that, and a huge investment by the students, but also by the university to create the field house, but also in hopes in the near future to open the PAC SLC that will transform the student experience, I feel, in the center of campus. So when we speak of space, that's obviously an opportunity to program, but at the same time, we've really tried to advance the delivery of strategy and service on campus to push out and advance the engagement we can have with students and not just ask them to come to our bricks and mortar so we can involve them in programming. So a little bit different in strategy in the last few years, but I feel that we continue to grow, and Adam and Donna will both have an opportunity to speak specifically to that. So I'll pass it over to Adam. Basically, we're going to take you on a bit of a journey from, I think, Thursday, March 12th. Adam and I had a conversation to postpone, is what we called it, intramurals that evening. Obviously we were on the cusp of what we're all dealing with now, and we'll just kind of take you on a journey of what we've tried to do to really engage students in the best way possible in the environment we are in. So over to Adam.
Okay, thanks, Rolly. This is kind of a snapshot of what we're going to go over today. It's basically an overall update from, the COVID lockdown until today, and then a little bit of our plans moving ahead from there. When I'm sharing the screen right now, I can't see if there's hands up or anything in the chat box. So if you want to hold questions, maybe until the end, and then I can give an opportunity, and anything that Rolly or I go over in the next 15 minutes or so, we'd be happy to answer your questions at that time. So the bulk of this presentation is kind of right here in front of you on your screen, is going to focus on the program offerings that we had, how we were able to adapt during COVID, our commitment to students during that time, and a little bit of the stats that engagement stats that we had throughout the end of the winter, the spring, and the fall term. But before I get into that, I did want to speak a little bit about why this is so important to us. More so in this presentation, we'll go over, like I said, the what, the programs, and what we offer, but more importantly is why we offer these programs. So it's our goal in the department to continuously promote the many positive benefits and the impact that physical activity can have on our community and on the student experience. We know, and studies have shown, that physical activity has been proven to improve focus and academic performance. It fosters increased engagement and socialization with your peers, and can be a positive and proactive measure to help prevent mental health concerns that could develop. So this is why we really consider this such a great opportunity to be able to speak to so many influential student leaders such as yourselves. And the hope would be that you can help share this message to the many students that you represent. So that being said, I'm going to jump into kind of, like Rolly said, the Thursday, March 12th was our first kind of, okay, do we cancel the games tomorrow or let them go, kind of see what happens? And we decided to cancel and didn't really understand what the next 9 months was going to look like. So we started with canceling one day. Then on the next day, we canceled the weekend. And on the Monday, March 16th, it became apparent that things as we knew them to that point were going to change. So we did everything we could to react immediately. I remember on that Thursday, I had what's called a nurses manager meeting. And basically, it's a unit or a group of people that have the same job as I have across colleges and universities all across Canada. And we get together once or twice a month and talk about how we can best engage our students, what programs people are running, how to adapt to changing trends and things of that nature. This meeting was, however, brought up as a panic. What do we do now? How can we react to the situation? How can we continue to be relevant and to communicate the importance of physical activity to our students? And what can we do? And by the time that call took place, we had already developed a virtual fitness class program. We had already had our first online fitness class through Zoom, and we had scheduled the days and the weeks in advance. We were proud of what we were able to offer, and we were one of the first universities to kind of get organized and be able to offer these programs for students. And in that, we became a leader amongst the other institutions in my peer group of other rec managers across Ontario. Over the next 6 weeks, we offered a total of 84 fitness classes, and the average participation rate for those classes was 30 participants per class. Those were all free, and we're very proud that we were able to adapt and react so quickly, and that we got so much engagement and positive feedback from our community. Moving ahead to the spring was a little bit easier, I guess, in a way, because we had some time to really understand where we were at. We knew that there was no in-person opportunities or possibilities. The buildings were closed. Everything was going to be virtual. So we committed. We put all in on what our campaign was going to be, which was titled Healthy Warriors at Home. This included as many different program opportunities for free for our community as we could possibly provide. We had live and archived fitness classes. We developed at-home workout plans. Our strength and conditioning coaches put those together, so they're very well done. We did health and wellness webinars. Some of the topics included habit change, sleep, and creating workout plans for yourself in your home. We did personalized nutrition plans. We offered online personal training. We put together a library of ways that students could be active in our community, whether it was local bike or walking trails, or open green spaces that they could participate in something related to physical activity. And we also started our intramural recreational esports program, and I'll speak to that one in a little bit. In total, we had 700 unique participants register through our system. So that means 700 different students signed up through the system to take part in the overall program. Once they were registered, that gave them the opportunity to participate in any of the fitness classes, to download the webinars, to engage with us in other ways. So 700 unique participants in the spring term is something that we were happy with, but there were so many more participations and engagement within those students for our overall number. While we were executing our spring term in this programming, we were still very much focused on our reopening plan, preparing to open our doors, knowing that in order to do so was going to take a lot of work and from a lot of different people, and to be overly prepared to make sure that it was a safe environment for our students. And Rolly's going to speak a little bit more to what that reopening plan looked like.
Thanks, Adam. So from the end of June is really when we started to create the plan to reopen. We've had a ton of leadership shown by our direct leadership group, which includes Adam and Donna, but also our Associate Director of Biz Ops and our Associate Director of Inter-University Sport. And so to create a protocol, to create protocols that make it a safe environment, obviously was our first priority, but also was to go through the process to have the endorsement by the university, the safety office, public health. But in our world, in sport, regardless of whether it's recreation or varsity, we have both PSOs, so provincial sport organizations, and national sport organizations that we have to align with when we go through to create protocols. So those determine the types of play and activity that are permitted within their sport. And then they have to adhere at the local level to public health guidelines, but also what we feel is a priority or the guidelines we should adhere to at the institutional level. So I can say throughout the process, we've been overly cautious because we knew that it didn't matter our numbers if it's not successful. So in times there are thresholds in numbers and participation, and we were cautious in those. And so sometimes they were less than what was permitted, but we felt that if we could create a safe environment and then we had more space and an opportunity to grow, we would do that. So we've obviously now navigated various colors in our region when it comes to the protocols or the thresholds that are permitted. And so now being in red, and luckily we've stayed in red. We weren't sure today when we would present to you whether we would move to gray, but we are still able to keep our facilities open and offer activities for our students to be engaged. So we'll continue with that plan. I will speak specifically though to, overall, Adam's talked about some data of engagement. I think the numbers I shared with Abby a couple of weeks ago. So we've now ended the fall term, and I think we're over 33,000 people have been through our facilities. As Adam mentioned, we're very proud of our staff and what we've been able to offer. This is not, I'd say this is unique. When I look at our peers, I too, and I'm on calls weekly with peers at other institutions to share ideas, to share protocols, to talk about how you reopen a pool and navigate their PSO or NSO, and it's all different and unique. But in the end, I'm very proud that I think we're the only institution in Ontario that very early on opened all facilities and has maintained that they've been maintained open. So lots of work, as Adam said, behind the scenes to achieve that reopening, but also lots of work to continually navigate that. It has not come without hiccups. As you're aware, there's been positive tests on our campus, and some of those had been engaged in programming with us. The luxury we have is we know exactly when students have been with us, when they've arrived, what facility, what program they're in, maybe if they're in an intramural, what team, who their teammates were, who their opposition was. And the other piece of leadership that's helped us navigate all that is our head athletic therapist has kind of maintained the grid of how we manage in conjunction with Clark on campus, but also public health, to again be very cautious about how we'll manage isolation, the length of their isolation, if they're one person removed, and so on. So very proud that we've got to this point, touch wood, without any transmissions in our facility. I think that's a really important data point to speak to. I think in sport in Ontario, there's been some broad brushes used when concerns about transmission in sport. That has not been the case. I think the only true reality of that was a fitness class in Hamilton at one point. But luckily, our priority is obviously our campus and not anywhere else. And so to date, we have not had any concerns of transmission in our facilities, or programming. So that's where we are as of now. The last thing I would say is that, I've spoken to the leadership required, but also the type of culture it's created for our staff to contribute to execute this. We obviously are in fiscal constraints like everywhere else on campus, and so we've had lots of leadership shown by our full-time staff to take shifts in facilities, take shifts in the fitness center, including all of us. So it's been a great way to be engaged with our students, but at the operational level that maybe, for instance, Adam and I wouldn't have every day. And so it's been a great way to be engaged with our students, but also our staff in delivering this service back to staff or back to the students. So I'll pass it back to Adam. And then as Adam mentioned, we'll take some questions when he's done prior to us introducing Donna to speak about the wellness priorities. Adam?
Okay, thanks, Rolly. So I'm going to skip ahead here and go over some of the stats that we had. Rolly did a good job of kind of explaining what reopening meant and how we were willing to kind of alleviate all barriers. Oh, my screen's frozen. Hold on. Okay. Sorry for the delay here. Okay, so here are some of the numbers that we were able to achieve in the fall. We completely made the commitment to do everything we possibly could to bring back in-person programming. And we had comments, I think, from some of the other institutions that it was going to be too hard. There was going to be too many barriers to overcome, too much liability. There were too many restrictions placed upon us within the COVID levels. But we committed to do it, not even knowing if we would get through the full term, if we would have to stop halfway through, if we would have to adapt and change what we were doing. And I'm happy to say, I think one of the things that I'm proudest of is our intramural program was one of the most lofty kind of programs that we undertook, because typically students register for a team at the beginning of the term, they get their schedule, and they show up for the next 3 months and play their games. Under the new system, this required students check in prior to every single game that they played. So we need to make sure that not only they register and get the schedule, they had to be placed within groups of no more than 50 people. So divisions were shaped around availability and making sure that we didn't exceed those numbers. And then they were required to check in to the headaches of some, and it was a bit of a learning process prior to every single game so that we can make sure that screening protocols were in place. All totaled, we ended up finishing our intramural program the day before we moved into red. We had to move up some things anticipating that red might happen, and in red, we can't offer intramurals. But we managed to complete the entire term for our total of 930 players the day before we moved into red. To this day, we've had over 3,300 check-ins for our club programs, 959 check-ins as of when I put this together Friday for our fitness classes, drop-in workouts over 11,000, open rec, basketball and badminton, 3,500, lane swims, 1,300. And as Rolly said, over 33,000 total participants. I know those numbers don't add up to 33,000, but that's because we've had varsity practices and other bookings and engagements with students as they come through our doors that have had to check in every time as well. So for me, it's awesome that we've been able to do this without, as Rolly said, having a single transmission of COVID through participation in our programs. So you could look at this and say, okay, well, you agreed to do as much as you possibly could, but how safe was that? And first and foremost was the safety of our participants. And we did absolutely everything we could to go above and beyond, which actually made it kind of easy as we went through the color levels, because most of what we were doing was already advanced to the next level anyway. So as we had to change numbers, as we had to lower volumes in our fitness center, increase spacing between participants, change our mask guidelines, we were always prepared and ready to do that. And I guess part of this for me is we want to tell you right now that we're committed to keep doing that moving forward. So I'm extremely proud to be at a university where we were the first to open our doors. We offered more programs than anyone else, and we stayed committed throughout all these different levels, and at no point said, no, it's too risky or it's going to be too hard. So I'm really happy to be part of a department and part of a university that has that level of commitment to the students. So moving forward in the winter term, we expect more of the same. We don't know whether we're going to be in gray or red or orange, but we're completely committed to being ready for whatever it is. If we start in lockdown, everything will be virtual, and we will provide as many virtual opportunities as we possibly can. But if in the middle of the term we move back to red, then we will be ready to open our doors as soon as it's safe to do so. And we will have program opportunities, even if it's for the last couple of weeks of the term. If we do open in red or in orange, we have plans in place for those as well. But the commitment and the common thread, regardless of where we are, is we're going to do everything that we can to provide as much opportunity to participate as possible, so that our messaging of how important it is to get some sort of physical activity and to provide that balance during your academic career is not only so important to you, but we're also going to create as many ways as we possibly can for you to be able to achieve that. I think one other thing that I'll say about the winter term is we have heard feedback from students about, say, drop-in fitness, where spaces are filling up within seconds. And it's been a pain point of going to try to set or get yourself a workout spot for the 3 or 4 days in advance. And as soon as they open, they're filled. We've heard you. We understand that this is not ideal, and there's only so much room and so many people we're allowed in each facility. But next term, we're committed to creating opportunities in the Warrior Zone at the PAC. So every evening, there'll be multiple spots open for fitness reservations there. We're also going to open up CIF Gym 3, which currently we have fitness classes. When fitness classes aren't running, you'll be able to sign up for a drop-in spin bike session. So those will be non-guided. There won't be an instructor, but students can drop in, sign out a spin bike, and have a cardio workout in that manner. Again, it's just trying to do our best to create every additional opportunity as we can. Along those lines as well, we're creating a standby program. So we've had no-shows. We try to limit our no-shows as much as possible. We will now put together the standby program so students can go on a waiting list. Then if we have no-shows, if we have people cancel the last minute, we'll be better able to maintain the capacity of our buildings and hopefully give those opportunities to people who want to use them. The last thing I'll say, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier, and I wanted to touch on it again quickly before Donna does her wellness priorities, is esports. So we made the commitment to recreational esports in the spring, doing kind of your typical sports-based games like FIFA and NBA and NHL. We had 100 participants with kind of a middle level of success. The feedback from the students was that those games aren't traditionally what our esport community is interested in. So we took that feedback and worked with the WUSA clubs coordinator, as well as Dave McDougall, to help transition some of the competitive WUSA gaming clubs over to our umbrella so that we could help support this more intercollegiate aspect of esports gaming. We have the background in competitive athletics from the clubs and varsity level, and we thought that we could help those more competitive students in their experience using our experience through sport. So that's branding. We're working on hiring students to do streams, giving them some marketing and communication support. When we get back to being able to travel, helping them with travel, as well as opportunities for fundraising and potential financial support. So a couple just quick highlights is we currently have 10 competitive esport teams. They're competing across League of Legends, Rocket League, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Valorant. It's a total of 51 student esport athletes. We currently have the #1 Rocket League team in Canada that competes in the North American Collegiate Rocket League, which is hundreds of teams total. Our Overwatch team is currently first overall in the Ontario Collegiate League, which is new this year, and they're ranked 16th out of 500 in all of North America. And maybe more importantly than the results, it's allowed us the opportunity to engage with 20 more casual student opportunities. So these are both volunteer and paid, but our team's coaches, managers, our student broadcasters, those doing the Twitch broadcasts and the streams, student academic and wellness support, PhD students. They're all students supported by our full-time staff, and they're all very well engaged. And we're still learning, but we're excited at how quickly we've grown with esports, and we're excited to see where it can go to engage that part of our community. So with that said, I will stop sharing my screen now and take any questions on anything that Rolly and I have mentioned up to this point. And after that, I'll pass it over to Donna. Okay, so Megan?
Yeah, I just wanted to start out by saying props on the esports program. I managed our Dota 2 team when I was in first year, and it's a lot of work for a student volunteer to do that. So it's great to hear that students are now doing that in a paid capacity. My question was actually related to usage. So we know that most of our students right now aren't in the region, or at least a significant proportion of them. So I'm wondering what kind of differentiates students engaging in online content through athletics and recreation from any other online content that they could be engaging in, and why is it worth their athletics and recreation fee if they aren't in the region?
So I can start. Maybe Rolly can speak to the fee part of it, but from our rec side, we want to promote physical activity in any way. So we want to provide the opportunity through us with our instructors, registration through us, where we can have students fill out waivers and have that interaction and feedback with other Waterloo students and instructors. But we also want to promote doing it in any capacity that works for you. If you feel that you would prefer to participate in physical activity in other ways, we want to help support that as well. The most important thing is that you are finding that way to move and to take a break and to find some balance with your academics. So as far as participation, we want to provide opportunities that support our why. I'll let Rolly kind of speak to the other part of your question.
Thanks, Adam. I don't know if I have an answer to the fee, but I think what I can say is that whatever space we were in, that was our reality. And so whether it was the transition in winter term, to know where you're virtual, or the spring term, to prepare for the fall, our commitment is just to do whatever we can for students wherever they are. We know in the fall we had more engagement and opportunities, call it regionally, Megan, but we also recognize the fact that not all students are back in our region. So I think our commitments just be to provide whatever services and programming we can, and for them to engage with us, whatever means they're able to. The fee conversation, I think, is more for the executive and how that conversation has been had at Student Services Advisory Council. But I can say, in hearing from my peers, I think I'm proud of the fact that the university acknowledged for the spring and fall terms not to charge it. And so the value back to the students was obviously over exceeded what was being charged of students. And then the plan for the winter, I think, really is the approach being either charging or not charging maybe is the challenge, because in the winter term, if you just average that over the 3 terms, maybe it becomes a percentage that is better rationalized. But I don't know if Abby wants to comment on that, but I think if I hear from the other institutions across the board, they probably charge more. And for sure in the spring and fall, when there was no fee charged, everyone charged more. I don't know if there's many institutions that didn't charge. So that's maybe just more of a perspective of the landscape, not necessarily justifying why we charge a fee for a student that can't access service. I understand that. That's but in our reality, all we did was try and provide service to the students wherever they were, however they could uptake it.
Okay, I think there's one other question there. Kanan, apologize if I didn't say that correctly.
No worries. First of all, kudos to you to get all of this over the pandemic. It takes a lot of effort to do this, so glad that our university is able to do that. I had a few questions about usage, just following up on Megan. You said we had about 33,000 people access our services. Can you tell me how many were the unique number of users there?
That we don't have exact stats on right now, because every time they access the building, they would have to check in again. So we have people, and I've seen a lot of very familiar faces come through our doors to access our fitness center on a daily basis. Same with our intramural program. If you signed up for intramurals, you would have played at least 6 games. So the 33,000 is total check-ins. When it comes to actually unique users, I'm not even sure if I could harvest a guess on it. I don't know if you would have an idea, Rolly, but
no, we I think when we presented some of this to Abby recently, the at the end of the term, I think we have a better opportunity to pull some different reports. Our challenge is, this is probably the most advanced, ironically, that we've ever been with facilities, because we actually are what I would consider control access. The number one goal of the PAC SLC project for us as operators was to have controlled access, to make sure our students are receiving the value of their fee. Because in the past, we didn't know who was there in casual rec. We'd have to manually check who's in the gym. There's 42 doors to that facility. So this pandemic has advanced some of that, but at the same time, our systems don't talk to each other. So we have a facilities booking software that we've used for years that now we've used a component of for check-in reasons. We obviously have WattCard that's helping us, actualize that when people are tapping when they're coming in versus registering online. So we don't have systems talking to each other yet. And so, but I think following this term, we'll be able to pull some separate reports and cross-reference to see how many unique students accessed our service, to your question. So it might just take us some time to do so.
Right. I would love to have those numbers. And Abby, it's okay. Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure, go ahead, Kenan.
So I know you're charging your fee this term. Generally, in a non-COVID year, what proportion of your fee goes to running the PAC and SIP? What proportion goes to varsity? Like, do you have a rough estimate of that? And has that changed over the pandemic? If yes, how?
I could just say at a high level, it's changed because of, I'll give you an example, full-time, I admire our institution that we've been able to keep people whole and keep people employed was a priority of the institution, I think, which is very important during these times. But what we were able to do was, one, we kept positions open to manage the impact of revenue losses, but also a budget holdback. The second is full-time staff that normally would be, I'd say, purely in sport on the varsity side, i.e. therapists, assistant coaches. And so we've actually had them work in our facilities, as I mentioned. So all of us have been taking shifts in the fitness center, for instance. But for our part-time therapists and our part-time coaches, assistant coaches, we've actually had work in facilities to prepare for protocols, but also to
is he frozen?
Yeah, he's frozen.
than we would have previously. And then the challenge is that we were always trying to anticipate whether varsity sport was going to happen. So it wasn't until June 8th that the league made a decision about canceling fall sport. And then it was in October when we made a decision to cancel winter sport. But that doesn't mean we're not committed to our student athletes. They've committed to come to Waterloo for an education. They're training, hopefully, for an opportunity to participate in sports, so they're still training. But I'd say overall, the cost component of, kind of the ratio to facilities, recreation, and varsity has changed, and with less being to varsity than what a normal year would be.
Okay, Megan?
Yeah, I just had a quick follow-up question regarding the fee. And I can definitely appreciate that not charging the fee through spring and fall was a decision that benefited students who were in an academic term through those terms. And if you do the math for the winter term, students are definitely getting some value there. But my concern is, I guess, just many of our students who are in co-op programs. And so this kind of method of giving savings to students isn't necessarily going to be fair for everyone. So I'm wondering if there's any plans to seek to change how the fee is structured at the Board of Governors in order to kind of adjust to this reality that we'll likely be in for the next year or so.
Yeah, so Megan, is your question specific to co-ops?
So I guess like kind of what you're saying here is that with varsity athletics kind of being on pause with the traveling and those sorts of things, there's definitely less expenses coming into the athletics and recreation portfolio. So I'm wondering if we're going to see a fee decrease kind of commensurate with that in order to kind of spread the revenue that your department needs out over all of the terms.
Yeah, I mean, the not competing isn't a huge savings. I think because we also are not generating revenue like we normally would to support that, the operations of varsity. So lots of teams generate camps and clinics revenue that support some of those activities. So that's obviously changed too. And as I mentioned, we tried to, be fiscally responsible by not filling some roles across the department that were open, but also actually what would be maybe a varsity employee is actually contributing to other parts of our operations. So I don't think it changes the fee. I think the fee discussion's completely different. And obviously, I used to be the student service director on SAC. I'm not on that committee anymore, but the executive would be part of those conversations of how they landed at charging the winter fee. And then for co-ops, I would just mention this, that we have not been charging co-ops. So it's something we need to fix, and I'll maybe just take this offline. It's on my list to do for a few years now, but co-ops actually don't pay the fee when they're on co-op placement. And so then we end up charging them an associate fee, which back to when Chris Lolis was the president, it's really tough it's not well communicated. They show up and need to buy a membership. And so I think the conversation we had then was, what's the overall revenue generated from co-op, people on co-op paying for an associate membership, and let's just cover the cost of that. So if it's pennies per all students, then let's make sure our co-op students actually have access without having to buy a membership. And so it's something we still need to fix. But for now, we're not charging co-ops because it's too, I think, hard to determine. And it's, yeah, I think it's not a headache we need to deal with right now. So the plan is, when I last talked to Ari, was that we won't charge the fee for co-ops.
Okay, I think there's one more question, and I know we're over our time already, but we really do want to get to Donna's portion if we could. So if we could take that one last question and hopefully be able to have Donna go from there, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, I've heard you say that the fee discussion is separate from this. With all due respect, that's not true. For students who are not in the region, especially international students who maybe have a 12, 13-hour difference and cannot access any of your online fitness events, it does matter if they're paying $100 for that. So my question is, what are you trying to do for international students who might not be able to attend your events live? And how does your live fitness classes vary from what they could find randomly on YouTube?
So I can't debate your comment about an international student that's in a different time zone for live virtual. We are trying to provide those archived content that they can access. Why is it different? I think because it's the same approach that we have with all our programming services, is to engage our students and understand the priorities they're dealing with. So then advocating and using the research and data that we know of why it's so important to take a break, to be physically active, and so on. You're right, you can find any of that stuff on YouTube, but I think that the priority to provide the content we have that's consistent with what's important to our students at University of Waterloo is important. And so we'll continue to do that. I think the fee conversation, happy to be part of it, but I don't think it's in my privy to make that decision. That's not how those decisions are made. It's the athletics and recreation fee is part of a comprehensive student fee structure. And so, it's not, unfortunately, it's not a component where there's even the opportunity to, because it's compulsory, it can't be opt-out. So, I get though that the reality is that it's a challenge for students for any service fees right now. We've got to come out of this, and we've been through the past 9 months, and we'll continue to do so. But I totally respect where you're coming from.
Thank you, Megan and Cannon, for your questions, and thank you, Rolly and Adam, for trying your best to answer. I've been taking notes during this discussion and would be happy to bring it up with the rest of the executive team at the various committees that we're on across campus to continue this discussion. So Cannon, if you have additional concerns, please email them to me, and we can try our best to address them.
Thank you.
Great.
Great, thanks, Cannon. I know that you said Donna wants to do a quick wellness break. I'm sure we would all love to be a part of that and take a little bit of a break. So I don't know if Donna's on the line.
She's there.
Hi, everybody. I'm here.
So Donna, as I mentioned, Donna is our Senior Manager of Wellness and Active Living. Since my interview, this has been a strategy that I felt that we need to play a bigger role in. Donna's been in this role now for, I think, almost 5 years. And really it is to better educate and bring awareness to the importance of being physically active. We've had lots of success in the PAC SMH, the Wellness Collaborative, the signing of the Okanagan Charter, but really it is Donna's passion and energy to advance these strategies on campus and to build the relationships on campus that will hopefully better educate and bring awareness to our students on the importance of physical activity. So I'll pass it over to Donna and prepare you to get ready to move. So
I'm going to talk a little bit first. So both Rolly and Adam talked to this, and I just want to echo our commitment to the well-being of our students, especially right now. All of our efforts, our programming, and the opportunities we offer are intended to complement the academic experience of our students, support their mental health, and offer a community and sense of belonging. And I think this ties into the question of why us versus other fitness platforms. It's our community. That's what we're bringing to the table. Our social media channels and our ambassador program are promoting the importance of holistic health, sharing tips and resources, and promoting the services available on an ongoing basis. We are currently offering a 12 Days of Mindfulness initiative and are planning a virtual wellness support program for January. Our priorities for the new year will be working directly with the faculties and student services to align our efforts with their specific needs and existing supports. We'll be working with WUSA and other campus partners to facilitate a physical environment and culture that promotes well-being as we return to campus. And this includes conversations about a low stimulus room and also active study space on campus. And we will continue to provide opportunities for all. It's important for us to challenge preconceptions on physical activity. So it's not just about sports or working out, and advocate that this really is for people of all abilities, cultures, backgrounds, interests, and goals. We know that there are concerns right now about increases in screen time and sedentary behavior. This was a concern pre-pandemic, and now it's come to the forefront. So we've had to get creative in how we reach out to our campus community, both in the pieces that Adam talks to and what we offer in our regular programming, but also what we offer beyond that. So that segues into, I would like to do a brain break with you today. We've been offering these as a part of large staff meetings for various departments on campus. I've also been piloting it with the Writing Center's writing cafes for grad students. And so far, the feedback and interest has been really excitingly positive. And I'm hoping that some of you in this room may have some ideas on how we can bring something like this into your faculty and the work that you do. So I ask all of you to take a moment and reflect on how you're feeling right now. Notice your attention levels, your ability to focus. Notice how your body feels. Notice how your mind feels. If you're sitting, notice how you're sitting and maybe reflect on how much you've sat this week. And as I talk, just start to wiggle your toes and circle your ankles, and the same for your fingers and your toes. I have 3 goals in this. The first is to get you moving a little bit. The second is to give you tips and hopefully inspire you to incorporate a little bit of movement into your day. And then the third is a big one, but very important, is to challenge you to consider how we're redefining our new normal and how we can incorporate well-being practices and things that take care of ourselves into our daily lives and into our culture on campus. All right, just roll your shoulders back and forward. And if you feel comfortable and are able to, I'm going to ask that you turn on your camera. There is no penalty for not turning it on and no judgment if you're still in your PJs. But it helps me gauge how we're doing, and it also creates that sense of community. So if you can turn on your camera, that would be fantastic. All right, give me some head rolls side to side. You can shake a little bit, give yourself permission to wiggle around while on camera. One of my favorite exercises, you're going to take imaginary $100 bills